Welcome back to the Mike Huckabee Show. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is the founder and president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. He is a first-generation American Muslim. He's also the author of a remarkably great book called The Battle for the Soul of Islam, and he is a true voice of truth and decency, a good friend, and a welcome voice on this show anytime. Dr. Jasser, welcome back, and happy Thanksgiving week to you.
Oh, happy, blessed Thanksgiving to you, Governor. Thanks for having me on.
This has been a pretty momentous weekend with the so-called deal going on with Iran, and I wish I could be more optimistic about it, but it's hard for me to get excited about a deal that is based on trusting the Iranian government right now. Should I be more accepting, even optimistic?
Absolutely not, Governor. I can't tell you how not only frustrating, but as an American who served in our military and served with the spirit of a country that for long has led the world in protecting those who want to be free, to see us making deals with thuggish regimes like the Iranians and reward governments that are the worst actors in the world, not only domestically with what the Iranian regime is doing to its own people, its deceptiveness with its own nuclear program. It has been bypassing our sanctions for years, and now with Syria. Assad would have been long gone 6 to 12 months ago had it not been for Iran. And now what our president is telling the Iranian regime is that he wants to basically stake his legacy on the fact that he came to some deal with them and reached out and unclenched his fist, as he said during his campaign before he won the first election. And this is proving to actually, I think, be one of the all-time lows at the advocacy for freedom abroad. And they're taking us to the cleaners. And I think it's going to show that we've left our ally Israel exposed. And Assad is going to use this as a license for further genocide. I mean, I just can't pick off the number of problems that this serves. And now we're handing them $8 billion for a 6-month reprieve in their nuclear program, which I can't fathom how this makes any sense on any planet.
You know, I have to think they're laughing all the way to the bank as they deposit the newfound cash that they're going to get from the release of the sanctions that, to me, are inexplicable. Why we would ever say, sure, go ahead and you can keep all those centrifuges and all the nuclear material because we can trust you guys. I mean, you only are holding a hostage in the form of an American pastor. You shoot young 20-year-old girls in the street for disagreeing with the elections, and you continue to fund groups like Hezbollah and Hamas. And Dr. Jasser, I know this is very personal to you because your parents fled Syria and got out of there because of the oppressive Assad regime. And he has been propped up for so long by the Iranian terror machine. So this is almost like giving a license to kill to some of the absolute worst people on the planet.
I know, and you know, we've talking to our families, and as much as I am reluctant to encourage any conspiracy theories, the meme happening now among Syrians is that somehow America is allies with Iran and allies with Assad. And I know that's nonsense, but the bottom line is that this is how America's actions are being interpreted by the masses in Syria who don't want either Al-Qaeda or Assad to continue to decimate their population. And they're seeing a regime that has fed Hezbollah, and now you have somewhere upwards of 10 to 20,000 Republican Guard and Hezbollah Shia radical fighters that are affiliated with Iran in Syria, committing acts of against humanity. And the reward now is for them to see the financing that has financed the Syrian military that just yesterday was using helicopter gunships to pummel neighborhoods in Aleppo. And in exchange, they're seeing Secretary Kerry smiling, grinning from cheek ear to ear about this new plan with Iran. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And then they see him sit with the Saudis saying that, well, we understand your culture is different, and basically turning a blind eye to the rights that are infringed upon women and other minorities there. And I'm trying to understand what it is that America stands for anymore, other than basically being a paper tiger that somehow thinks that we can just buy months and not realize that the long-term vision of bad actors like Iran is actually to get armed nuclear and then threaten Israel and ultimately bring this into a conflict that would just be orders of magnitude greater than the threat is today.
It also seems that this was done with no consultation with the Israelis. It appears that we were willing to sit down and talk to the Iranians and get what they wanted, get their Christmas list, if you will. But when it came to actually asking our neighbors, our friends, our only ally of consequence in that region, the Israelis, what do you think about this deal? We didn't even bother to tell them and ask them, and then hoisted it upon them and acted like we were somewhat, disappointed that they didn't jump all over it. How could they? This is devastating to them, and they have to feel awfully alone right now. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. And, the times of President Bush and President Reagan, who used to pick up the phone and roll up their sleeves and speak to world leaders and really take personal pride and interest in bringing together world leaders, especially those of the free world, and moving forward together and building coalitions of the willing. That just is not present today. And on top of that, a tone deafness to the way that these regimes feel and how it encourages more bad action when they realize that they're not going to pay a price. That ultimately, unless they feel intimidated by America's president and the West, which is really what it's sad. It's a sad day when the French are leading better than we are. And last week, when the other deal was stopped because of the French putting a hold on it, you realize that not only are we not playing a role, we are actively encouraging genocidal dictators to move forward against their own people. And American policy is no longer regime change in Iran. It has become basically encouraging the worst actors in the world. And not only is my heart broken, but I hope we can figure out a way to circumvent the current establishment in Washington and figure out a way to keep countries like Israel, who are our allies, safe from what stands before them.
What do you read into the significance that the Saudis and the Jordanians specifically, and even the Egyptians, have been awfully quiet about this agreement? They're certainly not dancing in the streets in those capitals.
Well, they're not going to, because the sectarian element of the regional conflict that Syria is starting to demonstrate is that the tensions, as we saw with the Al-Qaeda bombing of the embassy in Lebanon, or the Iranian mission, is going to set this on steroids. And now Iran is going to feel unhinged. So ultimately, they're going to be quiet because they're trying to figure out, actually, they're working closer. They've become closer allies to Israel than they are to the United States, because they have a much more common interest in fending off Iran. So the dynamics of the shuttle diplomacy that's happening is changing by the minute because of the odd activities of our president. And, ultimately, the only adult in the world that can stop that sectarian division between Sunni and Shia that's been there for over 1,400 years is going to be the United States and the West. And if we don't come to try to resolve that and be the adults of strength, that's going to implode into a large regional conflict, as we're seeing the refugees of Syria beginning to become some of the world's largest sources of jihadists around the entire region.
Well, it's very troubling, and I think your assessment is spot on. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser joining us, and if you have not gotten a copy of his book, The Battle for the Soul of Islam, I want to encourage you to do it. It is a terrific read, and I think one of the most insightful understandings of the Muslim world that you're going to find anywhere. Dr. Jasser, have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks again for being with me.
Anytime, Governor. God bless.